Have you ever spoken clearly and thoughtfully, then felt that your words went nowhere? Have you ever felt hyper visible in one place and then completely invisible in another? And somewhere in between those two extremes, you wondered what it would feel like to truly matter? You're at the right place. Welcome, Aquaba, to You Ain't Imagining This. Hi, I'm Alma Robin, your sister host and storyteller here in Yatetown. Today, we are gathering at the Crown and Glory Barber and Beauty Shop. This is a village story. And today we also have a Believe Black People story. And that means we're going to name some things. We are going to speak plainly about patterns that are personal and structural. We will give language to experiences that can feel confusing or heavy, but let me say this clearly. This is still, and it remains, a safe space, a stress-free space, a conflict-free space, and, yes, a drama-free space. Now, even most importantly, this is a trauma-aware zone. I'm going to repeat that, a trauma-aware zone. We are not going to relive harm here. We are here to recognize it and to remember who we are. So come as you are and take what you need, leave what you don't. And if this resonates with you, I invite you to like, share, or comment, not for the numbers, but so someone else who needs language for their experience can find it too. Today we are talking about mattering, about invisibilization, and about anti-mattering. This is what it feels like to sit on higher ground where your presence shifts the air. You ain't imagining this. Let's step inside. It happened at the beauty shop, a Believe Black People story. The Crown and Glory Barber and Beauty Shop sits slightly above the street. Not by much. Just a small rise of concrete steps and a railing warmed by the late afternoon sun. But once she climbed those steps, something shifted. The air changed. The noise from the traffic below softened into a distant hum. Even the wind felt different up there, less rushed, more settled. Even though it was only a half step upwards, it felt safe, known. Inside, the room held the scent of warm oil and citrus spray, a trace of peppermint, a note of something sweet and herbal. The dryers gave off a low, steady hum, adding to the room's rhythm. The woman in Titi's chair heard the familiar sounds. The soft snap of scissors, the gentle click of beads in a bowl, the rhythmic pull and twist of fingers parting, smoothing, retwisting locks moved like a quiet percussion. A comb tapped lightly against the counter. A jar lid twisted open. Someone hummed along to a song playing low in the background. From the next room, clippers buzzed to life. A bright metallic whir followed by a burst of laughter. Men's voices carried through the doorway, loud and easy. "Oh no, you ain't ready for that fade yet." More laughter, deep, unapologetic, joyful. Someone in this room laughed in response, full bodied, unrestrained. Joy traveled easily between spaces here. As the woman sat in Titi's chair, she felt the cape fastened gently around her shoulders. The soft brush of fabric against her arms grounded her. The cool metal of the clip rested at the nape of her neck. Titi was her loctician, but she was much more than that. A trusted friend, a patient ear, the kind of person who could untangle thoughts the same way she untangled hair. Titi was safe, and Titi's chair was a safe space where her shoulders could drop and her guard could rest. Titi's hands were steady and practiced, firm, never harsh. Fingertips grazed her scalp in small intentional circles before beginning the twist. "You're looking deep today," Titi said softly, meeting her eyes in the mirror. The woman in the chair tried to shrug it off. "Just a long day." Titi raised one eyebrow, and that was all it took. "It's just," she started, I don't know. I felt invisibilized." She stumbled over the word. Invisibilized? She laughed at herself, but the word hung there. Titi's fingers slowed slightly, not stopping, just listening. Oil warmed between her palms before returning to the twist. "At work," she said. "It happened at work. I said something in a meeting, and no one responded. But 10 minutes later, someone else said almost the exact same thing, and suddenly it was brilliant. They were brilliant." "Mm-hmm," someone murmured from the chair where they had been reading a magazine. And at lunch, I was sitting there with the group, smiling, nodding. I was present, but I could feel myself fading, like I was there, but not really adding anything except color. A dryer clicked off. A towel rustled. In the next room, the clippers paused, and a man said loudly, "Nah, you right, you right." And this morning, I had read an article about violence that happened in, I guess, a so-called black neighborhood. The article led with the property damage. It quoted the police chief. They counted the bodies, but they didn't name them. They didn't tell us who those people were. They were just statistics, just numbers. And I also had read a separate article celebrating innovation and the black woman who actually led the project. No, she was buried near the bottom of the article. No headline, no spotlight. She was just a footnote. The woman in Titi's chair looked at herself in the mirror. Invisibilized. This time the word came out steady. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't explosive. It was truth. A quiet exhale moved through her chest. For a moment, she thought it was just her. Maybe she was just too sensitive or too observant, too something. Or maybe not enough of something else. The bell on the beauty shop door chimed. Someone had walked in. Mrs. Robinson stepped in slowly. She had a way of looking dignified without even trying as she wrapped her shawl around her shoulders. She moved with deliberate ease, of someone who had climbed these steps for decades. She didn't interrupt, and she didn't rush. The room seemed to widen slightly as she entered, as if making space for her without being asked. She pulled a chair slightly closer, settling into it with a soft sigh, listening. The conversation did not stop for her. As T.T. twisted another lock into place, she watched something unfold 2 chairs over. An older woman was speaking to a teenage girl whose edges were being carefully brushed into soft arcs. "You don't let nobody make you small," the older woman said, gently but firmly. "If you're in the room, you're in it for a reason." The girl nodded, uncertain. "Do you hear me?" "Yes, ma'am." "And when you speak, speak like you expect people to listen." The room shifted. It was subtle, but unmistakable. The teenager's spine straightened just slightly. The loctician working on her smiled in the mirror and added, "And if they don't listen, that's information you need to know." Light laughter rippled through the shop. From the next room came a burst of applause and someone shouting, "That's it, right there!" Joy moved through the walls here. No one was shouting in anger. No one was tense in this moment. But something was being built right there in real time. Mattering. Mrs. Robinson cleared her throat gently. "This place," she said quietly, almost as if to herself, though everyone was listening, "has always been higher ground. From day one, we felt it right after we signed the papers, got the keys, and stepped inside. Up here," Mrs. Robinson continued, glancing towards the window, "babies and elders sit in the same chairs. 1 day old or 100 years old and more, everybody matters here." She reached forward and lightly patted the knee of the woman in Titi's chair. "And if the world forgets that," she added, "we remind it. No drama, no speechifying, just facts." She watched it, how the older woman's words landed, how the young girl's shoulders adjusted, how the energy in the room responded, how Mrs. Robinson's presence alone steadied the air, nothing ornamental, nothing performative. She turned back to her own reflection and thought of the meeting which she had felt invisibilized. It wasn't just her. And it wasn't just that one meeting or that one lunch or that one article or the other article. It was a pattern. It was systemic. Rooms where Black presence was visible but not influential. Spaces where inclusion didn't equal impact. Moments where suffering disappeared into abstraction. That was structural invisibility. Then she thought of another word, anti-mattering. When a person is present in the room, but nothing in the room changes because they're there. Their words float away. Their needs are noted but not addressed. Their absence goes unnoticed. This was one form of invisibility. That is being made small without being erased, incidental, negligible. The woman in the chair had remembered that Dr. Carter G. Woodson had said that if people don't know their history, they become a negligible factor in the world, and they can risk being exterminated. That was scary to her, but somehow also felt calming. The tension she'd been carrying shifted, not into anger, into clarity. "This isn't about whether I was prepared enough," she said quietly. "No," TT agreed. "It's not about whether I'm articulate enough," she said with air quotes. "Mm-mm," TT said. "It's not about whether I smiled enough." TT caught her eyes in the mirror again. "It's about structure, a white supremacist structure that's feeding itself." There it was. The words didn't spike her pulse. They steadied it. She looked around the shop. She heard the laughter spilling out through the doorway. She listened to the steady buzz of clippers, at the gentle teasing between chairs, at the way hands moved carefully and intentionally through the air, at the intergenerational instruction happening in plain sight, at Mrs. Robinson sitting like a quiet pillar between past and future. The woman in the chair sighed deeply, as if it was from her soul. This was higher ground, and not because harm didn't exist, but because in this room she was not ornamental. Her words shifted faces. Her feelings shifted posture. Her presence altered the air. And something else settled into her bones. She matters here, definitely, but she matters everywhere. Whether rooms are built to reflect it or not, whether systems are designed to respond or not, whether articles name her or not, mattering is not granted, it's inherent. She sat a little taller in TT's chair. "Invisibilized," she said once more, not as a complaint, but as a diagnosis. And then, softer, "I'm going to start noticing where my words do move things." TT smiled at her. "And where they don't." The dryer started humming again. The clippers started buzzing again. And a man laughed so loudly that the whole shop grinned. Oil warmed under careful fingers. Mrs. Robinson rocked slightly in her chair, looking satisfied. Higher ground was not an escape. It was a perspective. The woman in TT's chair didn't feel angry. She felt lighter and stronger. And you ain't imagining this. Today, something really important happened at the beauty shop. Not a confrontation, not a spectacle. It was a naming. The woman in TT's chair felt it. First, she felt it personally. Then she saw the pattern, the structure, invisibility, anti-mattering. And once it had a name, it lost some of its power over her. Here's my takeaway from this. Being visible is not the same as mattering. Being included is not the same as being influential. And if my presence does not shift outcomes, that is information for me. But also this, my mattering, your mattering, is inherent. It is not granted by a room. It is not confirmed by applause. It's not erased by silence. And higher ground is not an escape. It's a perspective. It is community. It's the place where we practice reciprocal mattering. Start noticing where your words move things and change things, and where they don't. Then act accordingly and do what you need to do. I'm Amma Robin. Asante Sana, thank you so much for joining me in Yaytown today for this Believe Black People story. What happened at the beauty shop was simple. She named it and she stood taller. We can do the same thing. Anywhere, anytime. And you ain't imagining this. Ashe, fam.